Greetings, Splash here with another vague comic review. And this one is interesting. I didn't really know what to make of it. It's Avengelyne Armageddon. It was one of the stacks that came with a whole bunch of comics that I bought. And when I sifted through it, I did not really know what to expect with this comic. Never heard of it. And it's one of those angels and demons Armageddon type story. So the writer is, I believe, is Jeff Loeb, and the artist is Scott. I am drawing a blank, but I will write that. I will show that in the description. And this story is about an angel named Avengelyne. Right, her name is a little distracting, but apparently she was. Oh, by the way, even though this issue is #1, it apparently is still based off a continuation. But at least this comic gives you, gave me a blurb about what happened previously. So I wouldn't go into the story being confused about why everyone's fighting. So apparently Avengelyne was an angel, a seraph, who was banished to Earth because she questioned God. And there she had a family, she had friends, and then she was requested to go back to heaven because apparently God disappeared or left and demons were now rising up to fight. So it was literally an angels and demons war. And it lasted hundreds of years. Like, it took place in, I guess, modern 1990s. And it lasted for a couple hundred years. I honestly couldn't tell you. If I was not reading that little blurb in the comic, I would have assumed the battles only lasted maybe a year. Because angels and demons don't really age like that. Anyway, the point of this comic is that the leader of the demons, Lucifer. No, it's not Lucifer. It's someone else. That's how vague this comic is to me. I read it carefully and I still forget the names. But Lucifer was not I believe disappeared. Someone else, Mika was leading the demon charge. He suddenly just disappeared. So Bilotti, I'm most likely butchering that name, he took over the demon world and he wants to broker a peace with Avengelyne, who is the leader of the angels, because I'm assuming she's the most powerful and has leadership roles. Anyway, she is willing to agree to this deal of peace, and yeah, it's actually legit. The new leader of the demons wants to stop the fighting, but then you learn it's because he just likes Avengelyne. He wants to be out there. So yeah, I guess that's what. Love can stop and start wars, but either or. Then the story shifts to an underground cavern, because an evil person needs an underground lair. And then we see that Mika is there and sitting on a throne. And why did it disappear? Because he apparently was prophesized that Bilotti would try to broker a peace with Avengelyne, and that would be their time to strike. I don't know why he disappeared for this, but it could be because maybe it was easier to get Avengelyne in one spot. Could be. But either or, we learned that Lucifer is actually in prison here in this cavern, and he would kill Mika if he could, but the bars, I guess, are like kryptonite to Lucifer. He can't really escape there. Or I guess the whole room is that way. So Lucifer can only threaten Mika, who then sends someone named Death to go on ahead. So while Avengelyne and Bilotti are going through the peace, it's a process where they cut each other's hands to broker peace. While they're doing that, they're attacked by a guy on a horseman who turns out to be Death, who is actually the son of Avengelyne. Like, oh, And then he's attacked by another guy who was hunting down Mika. And yeah, the story went from 0 to 50 really quick. And then the story ends with the issue 2. And I will say this, Jeff Loeb really knows how to go all out with his comics. If, I don't know what to say. It was all right. I wasn't bored, at least. It got a little out of hand with the Bible quotes strewn about the comic, and I don't think all of it was necessary, especially for some scenes. But I mean, I guess he was trying to go all out with the prophecy and Bibles and gods and, well, God, because there's one God. Yeah, this comic. It has potential, but it kind of feels like it's missing a lot. Like, again, if I wouldn't read that they were fighting for hundreds of years, I wouldn't know. You see them fight in the air one time, then you see them in a desert. I think it's a desert. I don't know. Oh wait, it's Megiddo. Yeah, so it's almost like it looks like a desert for the ceremony, and they, yeah, I don't. It was an okay comic. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. It's weird. And then the comic had a spin-off comic, which I thought was a lot better. It's based off Passover. Yeah, I don't know why, but there's a guy called Passover who was sort of like the second in command with Avengelyne in her comic. He was the guy who was sent by God to kill Avengelyne when she was pregnant with a demon. But then, he was told not to do it, so he didn't do it. And the guy is, you get what you see. He's tall, strong, has angel wings, and does his job. And that's all I can say about it. But his comic was pretty good. In the Passover comic, oh man, that name. Passover was, the story starts off with a dying man, and a creature in shadow takes out his soul and eats it. This creature is called decay, because when there is death, something comes to feed on that death, which I thought was a pretty cool concept. But apparently, decay isn't just satisfied with eating dying, dead soldiers' souls. So he has actually been going out and killing people, which I guess is not what he's supposed to do. So Passover and a few angels come to stop him, and Decay has grown so strong that he's able to overwhelm them with his large, football-sized green bugs. That's what I'm calling them. Anyway, Decay takes Passover's sword to use, and it burns him. And Passover explains that as strong as Decay is, he's still a creature of darkness. He can't touch the sword of light. So that was pretty interesting. The Passover uses, I'm going to call it a spell. He takes Decay's powers away, and makes him ugly, because you have to make them ugly. And then sends Decay, or not sends, he keeps Decay on Earth, but Decay, he can't die of old age, but he has no power. So he's forced to wander around the planet for years, hundreds of years. So long, it's the modern time. Go figure. Well, modern in the 90s, I believe. And Decay lures an archaeologist, young woman, to ancient area, and she believes a man that she calls Mr. Decay, because why not? And while she's reading the tomes, he uses a knife to stab her, kill her, and run her blood through his body. Yeah, but there's a reason why he did this. So, Passover, I'm guessing he has some sort of sensor to when Decay does something wrong. Because while he's talking with Avengelyne, oh, by the way, this comic takes place before the Armageddon, because Avengelyne is still in her normal human clothes, and they were talking on the roof. And because when Avengelyne becomes an angel again to fight, she has to wear the armor bikini. Anyway, Passover leaves Avengelyne to confront Decay, who was expecting him. And when Passover tried to use his powers, it doesn't work because Decay had used the blood of an innocent woman as sort of like an armor. He coats her blood in his body, and he's immune to Passover's, what do I call it? I could call it divine magic or divine light. And then Decay morphs into a giant monster to confront Passover. And what does Passover do? He flies away. And Decay is mad, so he chases him into a room. And he immediately realizes his mistake when Decay begins to disappear. And Passover explains to him that he was not running away, he was leading Decay to a room, which is a church. And all evil magic in this room just disappears. And then Decay dies. So, yeah. I mean, that made me realize, okay, Passover, despite his odd name and his executioner style of armor, that's gold, to show he's good. He's a pretty cool guy in Action Comics. He fights, and if he's defeated or overwhelmed, he just calmly figures out another way to beat his opponent. But again, this comic lacks something. You see what you get, but that's it. And I noticed with a couple of other Jeff Loeb comics, they're all the same. Same big muscly guy. Yeah, really, if I took Seraph and put him in another comic, I wouldn't know the difference. He really has nothing that sticks out about him. So I had fun reading Passover, though. It was a good comic. I actually enjoyed that. It's a one-shot, but I actually enjoyed the one-shot. Avengelyne, Armageddon, it was okay. That's all I could say. I don't know if anyone else has read Avengelyne, but I will probably, I don't know, I probably won't continue the rest. It was, maybe because I didn't start from the beginning. This was issue 1, but it was a continuation. But, yeah, thank you for listening to my vague review, and have a good day.